How much is wrong with the elements of Euclid? Is it the geometry, or those who have attempted to codify it in accordance with the formal grammar? The Elements Book 1. Proposition 1. On a given finite straight line to construct an equilateral triangle. Let AB be the given finite straight line. Thus, it is required to construct an equilateral triangle on the straight line AB. With center A and distance, AB, let the circle BCD be described. Postulate 3, again with center B and distance, BA, let the circle ACE be described. Postulate 3, and from the point C, in which the circles cut one another, to the points A, B, let the straight lines CA, CB, be joined. Postulate 1. Now, since the point A is the center of the circle CDB, AC is equal to AB. Definition 15. Again, since the point B is the center of the circle CAE, BC is equal to BA. Definition 15. But AC was also proved equal to AB, therefore, each of the straight lines AC, BC is equal to AB. And, things which are equal to the same thing are also equal to one another. Common notion 1, therefore, CA is also equal to CB. Therefore, the three straight lines CA, AB, BC are equal to one another. Therefore, the triangle ABC is equilateral, and it has been constructed on the given finite straight line, AB. Being what it was required to do. Note. Notes. Here we have a straightedge, a compass, and a piece of paper. What can we learn? There is a touch of anthropomorphism in the original text which I shall not mention. Well, we can use the straightedge to draw a line, and we have a compass to draw a circle. If we agree with ourselves on a given difference for both, we examine the relationship between an identity and what it can teach us. Or, we cannot agree, and find nothing at all. For example, we can note, or learn, if AB equals BC, and if AB equals AC, then AC equals BC, and we can go round and round with this, taking any pair and simply saying that it is equal to the remaining segment. We can also note, that we named the correlatives, A, B, and C, and change those names infinitely using common grammar, or arithmetic, even in algebra. We can change the names, but idea of equality will remain between them no matter what we name them. For example, if Fred is equal in some relative difference from Ted, and he is also equal in that same relative difference to Sue, and if Ted is also equal in the same relative difference to Sue, we know right away, the relative difference cannot be gender. The standard of difference is not in the name, but in the relative, or verb. This name game goes for how this proposition was stated. Is it possible that a compass can produce a curved line? Does a line differ from a line by some relative difference? Can I draw a circle, and then draw lines within the circle and claim that they are all equal, not citing any standard at all? Which of our two tools represent the one, and which the many? Noting that one and many are two ways of saying, as correlative is to one, so too is the relative to many. Is there any reason then, for assuming that we are so stupid as to not know the difference between a line and a curve such that I would be incessantly saying straight line, so that we can remember we use a straightedge to produce the one, but not the other? Am I so stupid as to not know that there is a big difference between the one, or correlative, and many the relative? Can any first proposition use terms, even in the title, which has no a priori been demonstrated and agreed upon. Absolutely not. We can which has not a priori been demonstrated and agreed upon. Absolutely not. We can also note that we can put another set of equalities here. First of all, the correlatives A, B, C have nothing to do with the relative, for, as we see with our own eyes, there are two of them, one is produced by a straightedge, the other a compass. So, I can say, segment AB, or I can say, arc AB. However, the identities mentioned in the proposition are the same, no matter which I choose. I cannot say, arc AB is equal to segment AB, for any pair. I can even be some kind of moron, claiming that one is really the other, and that there is no such thing as a line, so that I have to make up some childish story saying, a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, as if I am so stupid as to not know. We have two, and only two choices, either one, or many. Now, I can put squiggly lines between the points, and say, I really did pass the drunk test. All I had to do is change the relative. The inability to agree upon a naming convention is certainly not a sign of intelligence, but a sign of sociopathy and stupidity. You should never allow anyone to inflict torture on your speech. Let us agree that AB designates correlatives, and not, as one can see with their own eyes, a relative difference of any particular which may or may not satisfy some particular sociopath. Let us now repair the damage to this so-called proposition. Construct a first figure with our given unit. Slash. The inability to agree upon a naming convention is certainly not a sign of intelligence, but a sign of sociopathy and stupidity. You should never allow anyone to inflict torture on your speech. Let us agree that AB designates correlatives, and not, as one can see with their own eyes, a relative difference of any particular which may or may not satisfy some particular sociopath. Let us now repair the damage to this so-called proposition. Construct a first figure with our given unit. Slash. With a straightedge, layout, any AB. With a construct every destination possible for another equal to it. With B, do the same. AB is constructed with our straightedge, while C1 is constructed from A as a standard of measure from A to B, and C2 is constructed from B as a while C1 is constructed from A as a standard of measure from A to B, and C2 is constructed from B as a standard of measure. As AB and BA are the same, the only difference is how we set them down in common grammar, which has nothing to do whatsoever with the points being named. Let us agree on using the same convention as the common grammar naming convention, for how we read and write names in geometry. The figure tells us that we can construct two triangles, one parallelogram, and that the intersection of any two circles can only produce 2 points. We start with 2 points, and each instrument produces 2 points at intersection. We can say, as is, we produced 2 equilateral triangles or an equilateral parallelogram. Slash. We also produced bisection of a line, and the perpendicular and parallels, and recursion of the unit AB. We are demonstrating the construction of several figures, and addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, all implied by the straightedge and compass. So, with a basic unit, in our first figure, reason tells us what our first set of propositions should cover. However, this is not what happens in the elements. A unit. The recursion of the unit, the production of the equilateral figures, triangle and parallelogram, parallel lines, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, etc. All of these should be parsed into the preceding topics. Perhaps someday they will. The first standard we agree upon and use provides us with a cornucopia of things to examine, establish conventions of naming, and ideas in regard to mathematic operations. Provides us with a cornucopia of things to examine, establish conventions of naming, and ideas in regard to mathematic operations with that unit. Something one should also think about, is a thing defined prior to perception, or posterior to it. We start only with a unit. Every definition follows from our first principal parts of a thing, relatives and correlatives. And, with the first figure, establish our naming convention for each thing we find that we have produced. Secondly, our common notions, any part of any grammar, or must they be learnt and capable of being learnt by a student applicable to every grammar. Perception determines conception, conception determines will. Every grammar is produced by the recursion of the first thing, or thing. Everything else is a product of this binary by recursion, as demonstrated globally by the computer today, and as Plato stated, and as exampled even in the Bible which predates Plato and Euclid. How long does it take a species to learn simple binary recursion such that they are not always spinning off into the bananosphere of mythology and sociopathy? I do not know. I do know what my own hands can teach me. I do know that everything, from our first principle thing, must be exampled and standardized prior to being referenced. Any good computer programmer will tell you the same thing.
False words are not only evil in themselves, but they infect the mind with evil. Phaedo by Plato,